Yo, welcome to Change Mindset. I'm your host, AJ Smith.
Let's get it. And I'm your host, Leon Keenan.
The podcast is for everyday hustlers who said enough is enough. We're talking to comedians, content creators, bosses, risk takers who flipping the script and betting on themselves. And if you're ready to level up and get in your bag, this is your sign. Tap in. Let's get it, y'all. Change Mindset. Yo. It's another episode of Change Mindset, y'all. Yep. Welcome everybody that's joining us today. Leon, who we got here today, Leon?
Hey man, we got somebody that's shows a lot of perseverance, somebody that's very funny, somebody with a plethora of stories. Somebody with a plethora of stories. From Shelby, North Carolina, we have Scotty tells jokes. I mean stories, sorry.
Yes.
Yep.
Scotty with Scotty.
Yep.
Story time with Scotty.
That's exactly what it is.
Yep.
All right, then. I don't know why this should work.
Do it again.
Okay.
There we go.
Do I get sound effects for you?
Yeah.
Sound effects. We got sound effects.
So what's going on, Scotty?
Pretty good. Been busy this week. Doing a lot of comedy stuff this week. Got a big show tonight at Sip City that I've been working with and helping organize. So
Okay,
been
then.
staying busy.
Yeah.
All right, then. Well, I'm gonna get into it. So, Scotty, I met you at a comedy spot, and what was interesting is that you just retired as a teacher, right? I want to get into that. Like, what was the transition? How was it, being a teacher? And thank you for your service.
But thank you. So I had been doing it for 28 years. And I thought that I would be one of those over 30 years, but I hit a wall. I really just came to a place in my life where I had to make a change. And it was really hard to walk away from, but then once I did, I immediately knew I had made the right decision for myself. But I started going through menopause, and it fucked me up. Oh God, in ways you can't even imagine.
And the kids didn't help either.
Well, honestly, I'm gonna be honest. People are always like, "Yeah, fuck them kids," and I'm like, "Nah, fuck them adults." It was not the teenagers that were ever an issue. No, when my health started giving me a hard time, I just had to make some changes. And so I decided to retire and I started doing open mic stand up comedy the same week.
Okay.
All right. So, what grade was you as a teacher?
I taught high school. So I taught high school English, and I usually taught 9th grade or 12th grade. And then I also taught speech and debate, and that would have 9th through 12th grade all mixed up in the same classes.
Okay.
So,
Wow.
yeah.
So, growing up, did you know you was going to be a teacher? Like, that was.
No, when I was about 4 years old, I was convinced I was going to be a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader for my goal in life. That was it.
I know that.
I wanted to be an actress. I wanted to do all these other things. And what I really knew I wanted to do was get out of Shelby. And my parents were like, if you're planning to go to college, you got to get a scholarship. And I started trying to find a scholarship, and I found one for teaching. And I thought, well, I could be a teacher for a while. I could try that out because I wasn't really sure. And so I worked really hard to get the scholarship, taught for 4 years to pay it off, and then just found out that was what I was meant to do.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So, how did you get the scholarship? Like, you was in school?
Yeah, in high school, I busted my ass is how I got it. I was such an overachiever in high school. Oh my God. But I was, straight A's, all the hard classes, running things.
What college did you wind up going to?
I went to UNC Charlotte, and that's how I ended up in this area.
Gotcha.
Yeah, back in the 90s.
So was the entertainment spirit always in you from high school going up through college?
Oh God, yeah. Even before that, I was the kid that would put on plays with everybody in the neighborhood and do all that stuff. But my grandfather was actually an entertainer. And I used to go around to some of his events with him when I was a kid, and watching him was just so fun. And I always thought, love the way he makes people laugh. Like, that's
Right.
really cool. And he just did it as a little side hobby.
Mm.
And so I grew up around that. And then I became the mascot for my high school football team. I was the Shelby Golden Lion.
What?
Yeah. And so that got me used to making a total fool of myself in front of thousands of people
Right.
every Friday night. And yeah, that just it sparked something in me after I started doing it.
How did you become the mascot?
I had to try out for it. There were like
Really?
auditions, yes, and I had to try out like as a cheerleader. I had to take like I had to go to cheer camp. I was like a varsity cheerleader, but I was in the costume.
Right.
And so I had to like audition for it and stuff.
What?
It was a really big deal because in Shelby, like, dude, Friday nights, football is the only thing happening. So,
Right.
yeah,
Actually, I do know Shelby is pretty good in football.
it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Shelby is pretty good.
Yeah. The year before I was the mascot, the head got stolen at a state championship game. So I didn't even have the lion's head. I had to like paint my face and tease my hair out like a mane, but it was the 80s. So, you know, it
Right.
Oh yeah, it was big ago.
So you said your grandfather did entertainment, right?
he did.
So was it like comedy as well?
But yeah, he was like an after dinner entertainer.
Okay.
And he would go around. He had a gig where he would dress like a woman and he was very convincing. And this was like, you know, back before all the stuff that's going
Right.
on
Yeah.
now. And people just were like, who is this woman flirting with my husband at this
Yeah.
dinner thing?
That's
And he
funny.
would do all this stuff that was just really inappropriate. And then he would go up on stage and do a skit as a woman.
All right.
And then he also had one where he was a homeless person and he would like walk in off the street and make them think that a homeless person had come into their banquet. And then he would end up talking on stage. So,
Okay.
Oh
yeah.
wow.
So your family already knew, like, at a young age that, okay, daddy's genes done passed down.
Yeah, granddaddy's genes definitely came down.
Yeah.
And then my dad's always tried to make a goal of embarrassing me. You know how parents are with their
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah.
Like that was his mission in life when I was younger. So I got over all sense of embarrassment pretty early. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So how was North Carolina back then, like in the 80s and 90s?
So my childhood growing up in Shelby was like pretty typical of what you would imagine in a small town. Especially we lived kind of out. And so I grew up running around in the woods, drinking out of the creek, drinking out of the hose, you know, all that stuff. Not coming home till after dark when my mama was calling for me. So I had a great childhood there. I really did. And then in the growing up in the 80s, going to high school in Shelby, and in the early 90s, there was a lot of division in the town at the time. Like my high school at the time, every year it went back and forth between being 49% black and 51% white to 51% black, 49%. It just
Yeah.
was very divided, and there wasn't a lot of crossover.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a weird town to grow up in,
Right.
and I didn't ever know people outside of, like, black people and white people. When
Yeah.
I went to college, I had never met a Catholic person, a Jewish person,
Yeah.
Indian person, like, I mean,
Just
so when
didn't
I
know.
went to UNC Charlotte in the 90s, like, at the beginning of the
Yeah.
90s, it was fun. It was, like, so different, and I was just like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna do everything my parents ever told me not to,"
Right.
as soon as I got to Charlotte, of course. And the 90s were great in Charlotte, like, oh my
Mhm.
god, so much fun. Yeah, good times.
Yeah, so you said you was in theater, like, right? So what made you, you know, because that's a lot, and you say you were still an A and B honor roll student. So
Oh, yeah.
how did you pretty much apply, you know, but what was the balance for you, like,
Mhm.
back then?
So for me, when I was younger, I found very quickly that if I kept myself super busy and I kept myself scheduled, um, I could accomplish a whole lot more if I didn't have downtime. So
Mm.
I made sure that I just kept going, 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 going all the time. I had so many things. Um, and I did the same in college and then in my 20s. And then when I had kids, finally slowed down a little bit. But really keeping super busy and staying structured for me was something that helped me growing up.
Mhm.
To find purpose in every day and not waste my time to be really productive when I was younger. Now, I wish I could say the same as I've aged, but I got a little bit lazy, you know.
I
So
understand.
whenever you was in high school, you was the mascot. You had entertainment going on.
Oh yeah.
Did that transfer over to college? Was you in some type of entertainment there as well?
So I was in a sorority in college,
Okay.
and every time that there was like a lip sync battle or there was an event where we were doing skits for something or anything else, I was like, me, yes, I'll do it. So I was always on stage doing something in
Right,
college too,
right.
definitely. Yeah.
It's kind of hard to like go from being a bubbly person to like shrink in. So I would imagine you would have to have some type of outlet
Yeah.
to get that energy out.
Yes. And to get energy from other people. Like that's the thing that I really like. I'm an energy sucker. Like when I'm around a crowd, that's when I'm like pumped up and ready to go. So I love being out and being with people and
The
talking to
engagement.
people. It keeps me like going. Yeah. So that always has helped.
So was you in a sorority or did you?
I was. Yep. I was a KIO in college. Yep.
Okay, so what is that? Because I don't really know. Same with help me and Cutie Life. So what is it? What is a coyote?
So a KIO, well, it like the letters are like it looks like an X and a horseshoe if you ever see those. And it was a great way for me to meet people at first when I got to UNC Charlotte. Like I said, I needed to be busy, I needed to be active.
Right.
I got immediately involved in a couple of campus organizations, and then I met some people that were in sororities, and they were like, "You really ought to try Rush. Like we do so much stuff." And so I went through Rush, met a group of girls that I loved. I'm still friends with about 20 of them to this day. We still get together a couple times a year and stuff like that. So it's really carried over. But I learned more skills being in that sorority because I was a pledge educator one year, and then I
Okay.
was president for a semester. So and I was social activities director and stuff like that. So as I was in that, it taught me about dealing with people, working with people, organizing events. And that really transferred over into teaching more than any of my education classes taught me, honestly. And we didn't have houses at the time at UNC Charlotte. We had a floor of a dorm.
Okay.
And that was so much fun. There were 24 of us living on this one floor of a dorm.
That's
And
good.
oh my God, we
Yeah.
had the best time. It was great. It kept me very busy, but it also taught me so many people skills and organizational skills and speaking skills because I was always up in front of others talking. And I had entertained before, but I had never really had to do organized speaking type
Gotcha.
thing. So that was helpful to me there. Yeah.
All right. So you go to UNC Charlotte. After you graduate UNC Charlotte, how did you like after you graduate college and you go back to Shelby and start teaching?
No, I started teaching in Charlotte. I haven't ever moved back to Shelby.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I go to visit a lot. My whole family's there.
Got it. I just
Not
wanted-
moving back anytime soon. No.
All right. So you started teaching in Charlotte. How was that? Did you kind of shrink yourself a little bit to start, teaching, or did you, kind of balance the entertainment
So
and
when you start teaching, holy cow, like nobody can prepare you for that.
at all?
And I was 22. I turned 22 like 2 weeks before school started.
And you was talking, you was at high school?
High school. I had kids who were 18.
There was 4 years younger than you.
My fiance, who's my husband now still, he was like older than me, than I was older than some of my students.
Wow.
So yeah, it was really kind of weird at first. But I went in, nobody can prep you for what you're going to experience.
Not at all.
And they threw me to the wolves. The first year they were like, let's give her all the freshmen. Let's give her all the regular level freshmen. Let's give her all the kids that have already failed a few times and just throw those in there too. And so I had kids that, like, I was talking to their parole and probation officers on a
Wow.
biweekly basis, and kids that were coming from really rough situations. And at Providence High School at the time in the early 90s, there was no Ardrey Kell. There wasn't even a Butler High School at that time.
Yeah.
And so you had all of these like Ballantine kids in class with the kids who they were busing from inner city Charlotte to balance the racial quotas. And so it was really mixed classes of people who were so different and had no understanding of each other and no desire to understand each other.
Mm.
So getting them to come together as a class and mesh was the biggest challenge other than discipline. Discipline when you're a young teacher is like, oh, but
You're my sister.
oh yeah, I had some of that happen too. But it was really challenging at first, but then I kind of figured out how to build a rapport with students, and part of that is being an entertainer in the classroom.
Yeah, it is.
And I realized that if I tapped into that, it made me a far better teacher because the kids were more entertained, therefore they're going to buy in better. They're going to work harder for you if they buy into who you are. And I was just recently talking to another comedian who is a teacher as well still. And we were talking about the buy-in at the beginning of the year with kids is you have to get them to believe in you as an adult. And you have to get them to trust you and like you and respect you and all of those things. It's so hard to do. But once you figure out how to do that, then the class part balances itself out. And then you're left with like the grading, the planning, the running 3 clubs, going to organizations, going to parent meetings, going to, making phone calls. And teaching is just nonstop. Like it is overwhelming. It is 60, 70-hour weeks every week because you're upgrading and planning and doing all that. So
Right.
when I was teaching, my only activities really at the beginning, I went out some, I still had a lot of friends. And then once I had kids, it was like, nah, all I was doing was teaching and momming. And
Yeah.
that was it. And that's all I have done for years is like teaching and momming. And so I'm kind of reclaiming like my social life as well this year.
So this is where the story time comes into play.
Yeah.
Because you have all those years of material,
God, yes.
and now you're like, okay, I'm about to let this thing. I have all
Yeah.
these stories.
My friends kept telling me, like, they've always been like, you got to do some comedy. You got to try doing comedy. And I'm like, if I say the shit that I have to say on stage, I will get fired from teaching. I can't do that. And then I realized, like I said, they were like, when you retire, when you retire. And I realized, I was like, I can't just sit around. Literally the week I started, I was like, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to jump right in and just go to an open mic and try this thing and see what it's like. And so I did. I just jumped right in with both feet, and I've got 51 years of stories that I can tell you.
So at 22, that's when you jumped in comedy.
In January. Yeah, I jumped in January.
Okay.
Just this year. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Right after teaching for 20.
Right after-
Yeah, that was literally the same week. I was like, I've got to do something.
Got to do it.
I'm not going to sit around wait.
What's ironic about it, right? You said some of the stuff you say you might get fired.
Oh, God.
But now you probably get fired quicker now than what you would have back then because nobody would know.
Oh, absolutely. Back in the 90s, like I said things to kids like in the 90s. I pulled them out in the hall and like got their face and said shit to them that now, like, oh my God, I think about things I said and I'm like,
Well, they probably needed it, but
well, they did, but there are cameras now, and some kid would have been in my face, like filming me,
yeah.
No, but I'd pull them out in the hall and tell them the truth.
Yeah.
Like
Some kids need to hear the truth, though.
They do. They do, and I learned how to tone it down over the years.
So how do
I
you
still
feel about
know
that,
the
though?
truth.
How do you how was it for you as a teacher, right? Going through the change in seeing society is being more gentle, because I know when I was growing up, your teacher could paddle you,
Oh, yeah. When I was in elementary school.
So I know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I know growing up, I was part of those kids of, child abuse was a big thing around that time. So how was it for you and your teaching skills for that change?
So when I first started teaching, you could still have parents could still sign a form that said
Yeah.
it was okay to paddle their kid in school.
Mhm.
That was in the 90s. Kids today don't realize that was
It's-
just that short a time ago.
Just
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
I was one of them kids.
I was in elementary school.
Exactly.
But I got better in high school. And then when I was teaching, though, like I never really, I don't know, the issues that I had with discipline, and the change in society was really a huge part of the cause of the disciplinary issue change over the years. Because in the beginning, it would be kids that were like in your face.
Mm-hmm.
They'd say something about you, blah, 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 blah. Or they'd be writing a note to their friend in class all the time,
Mm.
doing little things like that. Now you don't see that because they're just texting everything. Everything's online. Um, and then the past couple years since the advent of like AI coming in and kids just like go, hey, write me a paper on what and Romeo said this to Juliet, and they get like a 3-page paper.
Right.
It's so frustrating to me. To see that type of change. The technology changes have been for a lot of what I've seen, like, I honestly think a lot of the technology changes have really hurt society and the way that kids learn. Um, but the way that kids behave now, their attention spans are also drastically shorter than they were in the 90s. So you have to adapt your teaching to like the changing attention span and how adolescence is happening, the psychology of adolescence because of the stuff with society and technology impacting it. The way that kids are going through adolescence is actually changing in their brains now. And so there's so much of that that you have to stay on top of as a teacher, and you have to learn to adapt and change throughout your career. You can't just stick to the same shit you've done every day, you know?
So was teachers and parents more closer back then? I felt like they was
Yes.
better.
Yes.
And the reason why I say that is, your teacher could take your phone away and your parent would stay behind them.
Yep.
And I feel like nowadays it's just like you ain't taking my phone. So how was that also as a change from having the parent support your decision and, trying to raise this kid out? Because, a teacher, y'all also are therapists, social workers.
A lot of hats.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Take on a lot of hats.
Yeah.
So how was that change too of not having that parents support your your
Yeah.
classroom?
And you're right about that because back at the beginning, I could call a parent and say, hey, your kid did this. Can you talk to him about it, please, so it doesn't happen again? And they would be like, I'm so sorry. Yeah, we'll talk to him about it. He'll be grounded for the weekend. Thanks.
Mhm.
Last semester, I caught this one kid cheating on 3 different assignments. And every time it was somehow my fault or not his fault.
Wow.
And that was 75% of the parents that I contacted in the last probably since COVID, honestly. In that time period, I'd say 75% of the parents I contact want to find another person to blame, and it is not their kid's fault. But back then in the 90s, when I started teaching, it was more like 75% of those parents would listen to you and support you.
Yeah.
So that has become very difficult in teaching.
So would you say that is like that was like the straw that broke the camel's
One
back?
of them.
Yeah, you was like, all right, I'm done with this teaching thing. I'm ready to do something.
Especially when you have administrators that don't always support you and they back the parents.
I get it. I get it. So, all right. So that happened and you retired from teaching in what, 2020?
This year.
Oh, this year.
This
actually.
year.
Okay.
Literally, yeah.
Yeah. So you said, you know what? Fuck them parents, not them kids. I'm going. So would you say like being a teacher, going to school for English, would you say that helped you in like how you craft your jokes and
Yes.
being a storyteller that you are and being able to connect with the crowd and make them laugh?
Definitely. So I had a little practice during my teaching career every Friday for the last 10 years or so of my career. I did this thing called Friday Funnies. And the last 10 minutes of class, I would tell the kids some crazy story from my life because they were always like, you have the funniest stories. Tell us one. And I'd be like, just wait till Friday. Wait till Friday. Don't get me off track right now. And so I had a little bit of practice, but I started taking some of those little stories that I had told to students for the past 10 years, and I started just kind of typing them up in just little blurbs so I wouldn't forget them. And so then in January, when I started doing comedy, I went back to my document of all those little blurbs and lines that I had put down. And I was like, which of these would make like a good comedy piece, or how could I blend some of these into a story? And so all of my stories are true. I do want to say that. Like,
Right.
I never like make up a story. They are all true. Sometimes I have to combine stories to make a point. So like I'll say this happened and then this happened and this happened and here's how it's connected. But I have always loved writing, always loved writing. And I hadn't done it in years because like I said, I was teaching and momming and teaching and momming. And now I'm getting to write again and it is so much fun. Like I'm having a great time doing it. My English background definitely helps with that, of course. But it also kind of hurts sometimes because I can be very wordy and over detailed in my writing.
Yeah.
And I have to remember, okay, when I'm telling this on stage, it's not the same as somebody else is going to be reading it on paper.
I was actually going to get to that because, like you said, the time span went down, right?
Yes.
And so that long form comedy of like the comedians that went before us, they was storytellers.
Yes.
Now it's all about set it up, punchline, get to it quick. You
Yep.
know, cut off all the fat and get to it quick, right?
Yep.
And so how do you do that? Because with storytelling and an English major and an English teacher, it's all about the details.
Yeah.
And you can you know,
Definitely. Yeah.
so how do you kind of monitor yourself so you're not being too wordy?
So I have 3 little monitors at my house. My husband, my daughter, and my son. And they are great at giving me feedback, especially my husband. He is just like a no bullshit kind of person.
Black
And
or white, he gonna give it to you straight.
oh yeah, and I'll start
Okay.
reading something to him, and everybody in my house has ADHD but me. I'm the only one that doesn't. And
Oh, what you trying to say?
I'll start reading something.
That's on that daddy side. That's what you trying to say? You trying to say that? No, what you trying to say?
Maybe so.
You know what I'm saying?
I've told him before. He refuses to believe it, but you know. But anyway, so I'll read a piece to him, and he'll just be like, "Time out, time out, time out. You're just like giving me way too much bullshit. I have lost the point. Like, where the fuck are you going with this?" And I'll be like, "All right, hang on."
So how is that as a challenge? Because not to say, you know, the audience is special, you know what I'm saying? And the reason why I say that is because you're an English teacher, right?
Right.
So I'm guessing if you see somebody write an incomplete word, it would just run you through the roof like, "Oh, you freaking kidding me."
It does not bother me.
Okay.
Weirdly enough, I'm one of those that it does not bother. And even when my kids were little and they would say things like the wrong way, I would just giggle about it. I wouldn't like correct them all the time, you know. Like my son was like, "I shotted my Nerf gun outside," and I'm like, "He said shotted." That was so cute, like, and I just left it, you know. So like, I'm not the person that's gonna correct that kind of stuff. Now I have a couple of weird like writing pet peeves.
Yeah.
Like the non-existent word "allet," you know, a lot without a space in it.
Yeah.
That one makes me crazy. I don't know why. But yeah, I mean, you know, I have to have one weird English teacher thing. But no, the writing part, when I see other people's in text and stuff, it's kind of funny because I've started hanging out with a whole lot of younger comedians. You know,
Be like, "Yo, you could not pass my class."
get texts from people, and I'll be like, "The fuck that means?" And be like, "What does this shit mean?" And they're like, "Oh, that means, yeah, I would fuck with that, blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, okay."
And so you ain't never been like, "You know what? If you was in my class, your ass would have been behind." Okay. So I have a question too also about teaching, right?
Yeah.
How was it, right? Well, it's still an argument that y'all was underpaid. You know what I'm saying? So how was it and what was the motive of you to still be and give your best to them students knowing that, hey, society is not paying y'all with your work?
Yeah, how's that mindset?
I loved what I did, and I love teenagers. Like I really did, not in any weird, creepy way, promise. But like I love teenagers and the energy that I get from being around them and watching how their minds work and how they're adapting and changing and growing up in the society that we're in. It's just fascinating to me. So I loved it. And because I had that passion and that love for it, the money to me, like, I was just like, we'll get by. fine.
Mhm.
And when I was younger, I first started teaching, my first year of teaching, in 1996, I made $20,100.
Mm.
That
Wow.
was my salary, was $20,100. And I had 3 other jobs.
Wow.
And over the years before I had kids, I also kept other jobs as
Mm.
well, and picked up jobs in the summer and, tutoring shifts and things like that. So
So how did you feel though as a teacher, like how society does view teachers?
it's
It's
discouraging.
especially during COVID because, it went from everybody blaming the teacher to, it's the parents' fault and the parents like, y'all do whatever you gotta do, get them kids back in school.
Absolutely. That was really eye-opening for a lot of parents, to see what they actually had to do to get a kid to learn when they were working with
Mhm.
their own kids at home. It was for me too, because like I had never worked with my own kids like in depth on every subject. I'd help them with something here and
Right.
there.
Yeah.
But like when I had to help my son with math one again, God, I had to like learn that shit.
Sorry, son, you failed.
Yeah, it was a miracle he came out with a C. Yeah, so that was really hard, but the parents have changed. Well, they did for a little while after
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
It seemed like society was a little more appreciative of teachers, but it has gone back so quickly to
Yeah.
being just, you know,
And what about the safety though of teachers now? Because there's a lot of school shootings.
hmm
Like, was there ever a concern of you of picking a lesser grade than high schoolers? Because we do see that a lot. That
yeah,
happens around middle school and high school of the shoot.
yeah. No, that is something I'm very good at compartmentalizing in my brain, and that is something that I was just always like, okay, like, I was always like, it's back there. It could happen. We are prepared for it. We've drilled for it. We've planned for it. I
Mhm.
know the things that I would hopefully do if that occurred. And I just kept it out of my mind. It was not something that I ever let myself think about, except when you would have a lockdown. And
Yeah.
occasionally you'd have a lockdown that it wasn't a drill and you didn't know why it was happening. And
But you know it's
those would
serious.
be really nerve-wracking until they
Right.
came over and said everything was fine.
Yeah, because what I see is that, I grew up, I went to North Stanley.
Mhm.
So North Stanley, we had, one sheriff that walked around.
Right.
But I knew at South Robinson, we had a couple of them, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Because, it was Native Americans and it was blacks.
Yep.
And a lot of people don't know, they don't really get along with black people like that. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And I know that because it was more of an urban area, we didn't really have to worry about shootings like that because guess what?
Yeah.
We got 3 other sheriffs in the schools.
Right.
So do you also think that it's kind of like ignorance because just because majority of a certain group go over here is why y'all think y'all don't have that same protection as if it was in the urban area of,
Hmm.
because in the urban schools we have to,
Yeah.
my wife is from Chicago, so in her
Yeah.
school they had a metal detector, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But when she went to the upper class, guess what? It's
Yeah.
not there.
Yeah.
So do you think that plays a part in that?
I do sometimes because I've been in a lot of schools around North Carolina. I used to was on this review team that went around and helped schools with different things. And so I've been in a lot of schools around North Carolina, and the disparity is crazy. The differences
Mhm.
are crazy based on what type of area you're in,
Mhm.
whether you're going through a metal detector, whether you have huge gates all around the parking lot, and you've got a cop standing at that gate as people
Mhm.
come in and out, and a cop at every door, or you've got no doors on the bathroom stalls
Yeah.
for security reasons. Like, there's so much difference just in North Carolina schools, and I do think a lot of it has to do with the student population and the perceptions of the dangers of
Right.
certain student population. Yeah.
So I also was it because I also have seen in North Carolina, it's been a growing of different nationalities
Yeah.
coming here. I remember when I was growing up, you might notice probably one Asian. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Now you have Indians, you have Asians, how was that like seeing more of a melting pot
It
chocolate?
very much was when I first started at, the school that I just retired from, when was there my first year in 2001, um, our minority population was 9%. of the school, and that was total, all minorities.
Yeah.
And then like it started growing and getting bigger and bigger. And when I taught in Charlotte, it was not like that. But then suddenly around the time of COVID, right before COVID, and then especially right after COVID, there was a massive influx of Indian culture and Hispanic culture into our area and Asian culture that had not been there before. And so now the classrooms are far more blended than they ever were. And I prefer that. I like getting everybody's perspective.
Right.
I don't want all the same white bread kids sitting in class. It gets boring. So I want some mix. But by the time that I retired from there, the in Weddington where I was, the Indian population is just like boomed through the roof. And I didn't see a whole lot of problems because it kind of happened so gradually that like there's a pretty good bit of blending.
So yeah, 'cause I was
overall.
trying to say, was it hard to relate to them because
Oh yeah.
and then you have when I first met my Greek person, I was just like you, in a small town, I just saw white, black, Indian. So when I met
Yeah.
my first Greek person and Scott person, I was just like, wait a minute, you consider this a white? Like I thought white was, England, but
Yeah.
that's that story. But like, how was it to get them to understand Scotty, what I'm saying, teaching and say, hey, this is how we do it in my classroom, regardless you from here, there. How was it for you to relate to those kids with different backgrounds?
So the funniest thing that I noticed at first that was different was I would get parent emails from the Indian kids' parents going, "Why are you not giving them homework? You're not giving them enough homework. They should have 3 hours of homework a night. What book should they be reading on their own?" And I was like, what is wrong with these people? Let your kid be kid, man. What?
Right.
And so I finally realized like it's just a very different mindset in the
Mhm.
Indian culture for the most part. And I got a kid who TA'd for me. I taught him when he was a junior and he was my TA his senior year and he was Indian.
So what's a TA?
A teacher's assistant. As
Okay.
a senior, they come in and they just help you, like they staple shit, they put up bulletin boards, they,
Okay. Then.
file, whatever. And so he was in there and he would come in and sit down and we would get nothing done some of the times because we would just sit there and talk about life because he was very open in talking about the Indian culture and he kind of saw it as his job to like educate me about it, I think.
Yeah.
And he was great. And like I learned so much about it. And I learned like the distinctions between kids in the Indian culture who have parents that were born in America versus born in India and how drastically different that is. So I got really lucky that I had that TA and he like kind of took me, but I've always been the type of person that's like, look, I don't want to be racist. I just don't know anything about your culture and I need you to educate me. So if I ask an ignorant question, I'm sorry, just tell me, like, like I am asking because I'm curious, like not because I'm being like weird. I just want to know, like I love knowing anything about people that I meet. So I got into that with him and so that kind of gave me an in to the Indian culture as they came in. But I also was like the speech and debate coach and I coached the quiz bowl team, which is like
Oh wow.
all of the nerds. I
Yep.
called them freaks, geeks, and weirdos of the school. And then I also had the D&D club, like Dungeons and Dragons, so definitely had the freaks, geeks, and weirdos of the school.
Yeah.
But that gave me a really nice insight because in a club meeting, you're meeting with a small group of kids. You can talk to them, get to know them better one-on-one. The Indian kids definitely come out and Asian kids definitely come out for quiz bowl and speech and debate.
Gotcha.
So I got to know a lot of them there.
So I want to get into the comedy a little bit. But before I get into the comedy, I want to get into, I know you are a cancer survivor. And it's been what, 5 years? Is it-
So I go for my next scan in 6 weeks.
Okay.
And at that scan, that will be like my 6-year mark.
6-year
I
mark.
think.
Okay.
Yeah,
Hey,
right at my 6-year
so,
mark. Yeah, so thanks. I know, like,
good.
whoo. It's
Wh-
been a nerve-wracking battle.
what type, if you don't mind?
No, I don't mind at all. I had stage 3 metastatic melanoma.
Okay.
It started out as a little tiny dot on my arm, looked like a pimple or a zit.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of scratched at it, thought, oh, I have like an ingrown hair or something.
Mm-hmm.
What's that?
Yeah.
And it didn't go away. And I went to the doctor for something else. I have psoriasis, and I went in for a psoriasis just check. And he was like, well, you've paid your copay. You got anything else you want me to look at while you're here? I was like, I got this weird little dot. And he goes, does look weird. We'll cut it off, send it off, but it doesn't look like anything dangerous. And then 2 weeks later, he called me back and he said, we've sent it to 3 labs because it's this really rare type of melanoma that is nodular melanoma.
What is that?
And it is like a little tiny node, itty bitty tumor that starts growing under your skin, and it grows down kind of before it ever breaks through the surface. So by the time it's come to the surface, you usually have spread some. Well, the first time they thought that it hadn't spread. So I had one surgery, they removed it. They went in under my arm, removed lymph nodes. Um, and at that time in 2012, they said, okay, we took it out. Come back in
Mm.
a year
Right.
and we'll check you out. And that was it because there was nothing else in 2012 that they did for melanoma.
Mm.
And then in 2018, I found a lump inside my arm higher up, and there was nothing on the surface, just this big lump.
Mm.
And it grew really fast. And they went in and said, yes, it's a tumor. Took it out, took more lymph nodes. And then I did 8 months of immunotherapy, which you go in for like infusions. I'd go in once a month for that. And during that time, I got another tumor. And they were like, okay, the immunotherapy is not working. They took that tumor out, did more lymph nodes, and then said, we got to try something a little more drastic before this really spreads.
Right.
And so I did a year of oral targeted chemotherapy.
Okay.
And I was out of school for 2 years. Luckily, it happened to be right during the pandemic time.
Right.
So I missed some of that hell in teaching. But yeah, so I was out of school for 2 years and then came back. And so since then, since that last tumor, it will be 6 years in September.
Congratulations.
Thanks. Yeah, so I've been left with, I don't know if you can see it on there. I have this like very cool,
Mhm.
weird scar. It looks like a lizard,
It
like
does.
a
Yeah.
fossilized
Yep.
something or other. Yeah, so that's 3 surgeries. They've gone in 3 different places and 2 biopsies. And I've got biopsy scars all over, but yeah.
Right.
So it's a type that I will always have those cells somewhere in me. And it's a matter of like when they eventually get on an organ or get somewhere and form a cluster, and then they're going to have to go in and do something else. So it's just a type you
Gotcha.
kind of learn to live with that possibility being out there.
Yeah. So fast forward, you jump into comedy in January. Do you take, some of the things you've been through, like you're surviving cancer and you having cancer now, like do you take some of that and you put it onto stage?
Not yet. I'm working up some stuff. I I would like to at some point do some speaking, like public speaking,
Right.
work with survivors groups, that type
Mhm.
of thing. So I have worked up some written stuff that includes a little bit of humor, but it's not really the type of comedy that I would put on stage right
Gotcha.
now.
Gotcha.
I will definitely though, because I definitely have a sense of humor about
Right.
everything. And I just haven't figured out how to work in that to make it really funny yet.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So what was the mindset like? Did you tell your husband you were good retired? Did he already know? Did y'all plan?
He was just like when we talked about it in December, because I was going to have a hysterectomy and I was going to miss the first month of the semester of the new semester during that. And so I was going to have to take that month off. And we just started talking about all the possibilities and stuff. And he was like, you've been really miserable for a long time.
Mm.
And let's see what the financial aspects are. and he has been super supportive. He's been great. The pension sucks, but I've been working like all kinds of weird Craigslist jobs, gig jobs, and pet sitting and house sitting and stuff like that. So I'm bringing in a little money here and there. At least my spending money. My bar tab money for all the comedy, the bar tab at the comedy. But no, he's been wonderful about it. He really has been super supportive. He is not a social person, so you will not see him out at a show. He came to my first two, and he was like, okay, I'm done.
I've seen it.
And he listens to him at home, and he times me, and he gives me feedback, but he won't be out at a bar watching.
So, like, what was it like when you first hit the stage, right? So you retired.
Mhm.
So did you chill for a month before you got on stage, or
No.
a week later you like,
Was in it a week later.
Was it like
you that boy?
I sent my girlfriends a thing, the ones that had always said, you got to do it. You got to do it. And I'm like, when I retire. And they always were giving me shit. So I sent them out this little invitation that was like, you're invited to Scotty's midlife crisis. It's going to be happening at Triple C. I just retired, and which blew their minds because we had been together 2 weeks before that for a Christmas party, and I hadn't even known it then.
Oh,
And so I'm like, I just retired. I'm starting doing stand up. Be there or not, I don't give a shit. I told y'all I was doing it, I'm doing it. And that was it. And like 15 of them showed up. It was great.
cool.
So
That's
yeah,
cool.
it was really fun.
So did you have like the same mindset as that 22-year-old Scotty whenever she jumped into high school teaching? They just threw into.
Yeah.
Did you have that same mindset as well as like doing comedy? Do you feel the same
Yes.
like, nervousness and everything?
Well, no, the same like energy and excitement.
Right.
Yeah. It's given me a very a different kind of energy in my daily life. Like it really has. It has been I just like so great. It's been a breath of just life to me, really has. And I jumped straight into it with like, I'm going to give it my all. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. I'm going to be out there a couple times a week at bars, trying stuff out, trying new shit, meeting comedians, going to events, asking people for feedback. Like, yeah, I just jumped right in.
So I'm interested, right? Because whenever you grew up in an era of comedy that was, we won't see that era again. Right?
I have to say, my favorite comedian, Bill Cosby.
I
Bill
like Bill.
Cosby. That's who I grew up watching. I know
Yes,
it's canceled. Bill Cosby. I did. I loved him. That was my
That was a clean act.
inspiration when I was a kid. I watched all of his videos.
What's your pride?
I love Richard. I didn't get to see him until I was older. You know, my parents were strict. So yeah, they let me watch some Bill Cosby. I remember Bill Cosby made my mama pee her pants. We were watching Bill Cosby as himself, and my mom literally pissed her pants, and she's going to kill me for saying that. But she pissed her pants. And I remember thinking, somebody can make adults like lose their minds, roll on the ground, pee their pants. What? Like, yeah. So the 80s, different era of comedy for sure.
Right. So that's the reason why I asked that question. I wanted to know, like, who did you grow up listening to as far as like comedy, and who do you feel like you kind of not necessarily mimic your comedy style after,
Yeah.
but who do you feel like you kind of take after a little bit? You take some of their comedy, some another person's comedy, and you kind of form your own style.
Okay. So I have to say Bill Cosby, like that was the first comedian that I remember I loved watching. And then, okay. So, like I said, Bill Cosby, Robin Williams, Eddie Murphy.
Okay.
When I was in high school, a lot of his big movies were coming out and stuff, and I still do love him. I don't know who would I imitate or mimic. Oh, somebody told me recently that I reminded them of two people have told me that I reminded them of a comedian, and I had never seen her before, and I watched her the other day, and I was like, okay. Oh my God, what's her name? White lady, blonde hair. Leanne Morgan? Yeah, I think it's Leanne Morgan. She's got this real Southern accent, and she like tells these crazy stories. And I was like, okay, I can see it again.
Okay, yeah.
A couple of people told me that I remind them of her, so I don't know. I guess seeing my granddad when I was growing up was a big part of like what I drew.
Because that was like kind of our comedy, you know what I'm saying? Especially being in the country, small little country town.
Oh yeah.
It was like our grandfathers, our aunts and uncles, they're drinking, they're getting tore up, and they just cracking jokes at each other.
Oh yeah.
So
Oh yeah, like ours is, old country families and everybody's sitting around on the porch at night shucking corn, just giving each
Yep.
other shit, just like
Yeah.
talking, just joking around, telling stories about funny things that
Mhm.
they remember when the kids were little and this and that. And so I grew up listening to a lot of stories. And there was a lady that when I was younger, my mom took me to the library to see a storyteller, and she was a professional storyteller. Wish I could remember her name. I've been trying to think of it for a couple months now, and I've looked it up and can't find it. Um, but she was amazing.
Mhm.
And then when she came back to the area later, she was a lot bigger.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And she was in the auditorium in town, and we went and saw her again. And then I used to find her on a radio station that she was on, like on Saturday nights when I was a kid, and she
Mhm.
would tell a story on there. So the storytelling aspect of all of that time period is
So
just
kinda
really, yeah.
So I want to talk about this
That's the
since
thing.
you just made me think of this. How was it, in the '80s? That was a beginning of a lot of stuff,
Mhm.
music, hip hop,
Oh, yeah.
politicals and all that. Like, how, like, from being from that area, like, how did that transition to who Scotty is now? Like, because y'all was big, y'all was loud, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And at that time, Saturday Night Live had just started.
Oh, God, yeah.
So how was that in that era? Also, horror movie started in '82. You got Carrie and all that.
Greatest, like, media
Yeah.
explosion of all that stuff
Yeah.
in the '80s. So, like, I remember when I was in 5th grade, 5th or 6th grade, a friend of mine was like, "You gotta listen to these guys," and it was Run DMC,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Oh, I like this, it's so different." And then, like, a few months later, he's like, "You gotta listen to this is awesome," and it was, "You gotta fight for your right." And that set me off on a lifelong love of the Beastie Boys. And so then I went down that little path, and then when I was in high school, you're trying to rebel. Two
Yeah.
Live Crew came out.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and NWA and all of that, and so I was always blasting something that was offensive that I should not be listening to,
Right.
according to my parents. So I loved growing up in that
Yeah.
era of music and seeing that, and also you had all of the hair rock bands of the '80s. I saw a lot of them. I saw a lot of people in concert, like Whitney Houston, and just like all kinds of things. So the music was fantastic. The movies, I'm trying to show them all to my kids now over time. The Breakfast Club is my
Yeah.
favorite '80s movie,
Oh, yeah, I
hands
remember.
down. So I showed that to my kids
What about The
recently.
Outsiders?
The Outsiders, I love. But there's so many good ones from that time, like 16 Candles, is a good one. But the horror movies were also fantastic,
was
and
great.
we would go see them in the theater because in Shelby,
Yeah.
on Friday nights, it was football, Saturday nights,
Yeah.
movies.
Yep.
And if nothing was actually at the movie theater, you would say you were going to the movies, and then the older boys would pick you up out the back door, and you'd sneak out of the movies, and they'd drop you off so your parents thought you were going to the movies. But we would go to all of the horror movies when they came out, like, we'd go, like, opening night or the next night. It was really fun.
I also learned about you too that you, well, you have in the past, right?
Mhm.
Did the Santa Claus thing
Yeah.
in the mall. So that's why I asked you about the '80s because it seemed like you love theater, like you love
Mhm.
entertainment, and all that. So would you say that that's your real love and teacher was just something that just came along? Because it's like, what was the mindset of you saying, "Hey, I'm gonna apply at a holiday at the mall"?
That was when I was 15,
Mhm.
and the guy who did ran the Santa Claus,
Yeah.
photo thing at the mall had seen me as the mascot, and
Okay.
he was a photographer for, like, the local newspaper as well, and he had taken pictures of us on the sidelines, and he came over to me one day, and he goes, I think you would be really good. I'm about to start this new thing at the mall, the Santa Claus, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, what do I have to do? He's like, you just wear this little, red velvet dress, very short, white tights, some little red shoes, and a Santa hat, and you put kids on Santa's lap and take picture. And I was like, oh, okay, I can do that. So I did, and it was really fun. But like the story that I told on stage that we were talking about is how like the first year we went through 7 Santas.
Wow.
Because he hired like the craziest fucking people in the universe. Like, I mean, just the most bizarre shit happened that year. So yeah, I did. I was
If they learn to find out good Santa.
it was fun. We had a perverted Santa who he just kept like begging the elfies to sit on his lap when the kids weren't around and stuff like that. We had one guy that like he forgot to take his meds and he just like threw this kid off his lap and goes, "Santa needs a break," and goes running down the mall and he's ripping the suit apart, running down the mall, just like tearing it off. And I'm like, I guess Santa had to pop.
So when you saw Bad Santa, you can relate to it.
It's like, oh my God, they're not wrong.
I did take his medicine. It was just
No, because I had to call his wife because he was running down the mall in his like wife beater and his like,
He might take some shrooms or something.
and his wife was like, "Oh, I wondered. I noticed Earl didn't take his meds this morning. We're on dinner." And I was like, because when I called the lady, I didn't even know what his real name was. And I call and all I have is their phone number. And I'm like, "Mrs. Santa?"
You still experience.
She goes, "What?" And I'm like, "I need to speak to Santa's wife. I don't know Santa's name." And she goes, "Oh, it's Earl."
With all that, right? So, how often do you write? You know, with your copy?
Right. Or at least look at something that I have written. Lately it's been every morning. Yeah, just even for a few minutes, like I'll just read over a piece that I've written and go, "Oh, I remember when I told it on stage the other night, I used these words instead and that sounded better and I'll just change a couple words or whatever." Or I'll look at a piece that I've been thinking about because I, I do my best thinking 2 different times, like my creative thinking.
Mm.
When I am washing my hair in the shower, I do not know why, but I've always
Or on the toilet. That's mine.
not not on the toilet for me.
On the toilet.
No, on the toilet, I'm
Yeah.
scrolling mindlessly on my phone.
Exactly.
Yeah, but no, in the shower when I'm washing my hair, I've always come up with my best lesson plans and also some of my good writing ideas. And right before I fall asleep to take a nap, like, and I love napping.
Yeah.
So I have started putting my notebook next to me in the bed. And my kids came in the other day and they were like, "Why do you have a pen in your hand and your eyes are closed?" And I was like, "Because I'm thinking, shut up." And I just like, and I lay there and I like get almost asleep and then something will come to me and I like jot it down in my notebook. And then like I'll put some of those things into like an actual document the next morning when I'm writing. So
Okay, then.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
cool.
even like 5 minutes pretty much every day. Like,
So what would you say to a teacher who wanted to get in comedy? Would you tell them to wait until they retired?
Or just do it.
there are several teachers that are currently in the comedy scene in Charlotte
Mm.
who are teachers still.
Yeah.
There's 2 guys that I know of who are still teaching regular. And you have to watch what you say a whole lot more. And I've talked to them about that and they're like, "Yeah, I'm kind of jealous of you. Like you can just like tell those stories that we can't yet." And I'm like, "Yeah." So it depends on what type of comedy. And especially like if you're just telling jokes and punchlines and you've got funny bits and stuff, you can easily still do that type of comedy. But if you're going to tell stories that involve things that your students might have, you know, been doing to themselves in the back of the classroom one day, or, you know, things you might have caught kids doing in the stairwell, you know, if you're going to talk about those things,
Yeah.
then you probably should retire first.
Yeah. 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 So how do your kids feel about your comedy? You know what I'm saying?
They actually are thrilled that I'm doing it. Like at first they were like, "Well, that's cool. Okay."
Yeah.
And then after the first night that I did it, I asked my whole family, I'm like, "Okay, how do I do?" And they were all like, "You need to learn how to use a microphone." I just left it on the stand. I didn't take it off, you know, and I was like trying to talk into it and I was doing motions. I was all over the stage and it didn't work. And after that, like I started practicing with, because my son is a vocalist for like a metal vocalist. So I started using his mic, just holding it to practice with. And I got used to that. But the kids now, they love coming out with me. They've made so many friends within the comedy scene too. They come to
Mhm.
everything. Their friends come. And they don't mind if I talk about them on stage, like at all.
So
Like
have
they
you ever saw
really
one of your
don't.
students
Many times. I've seen so many of my students, even with some of their parents that have been, yes, like
They don't know, be like, yo, that sound like my kid you talking about?
luckily they have been mostly showing up to the PG-13 show that happens in
Okay.
Matthews.
Oh yeah.
So I have to be a little more reserved there. But yeah, I've seen quite a few students, and weirdly enough, one of the other comedians that's in Charlotte, we were talking to each other and we kept like weird looking at each
Right.
other. And then I realized like he's like 30 something. I taught him when he was
Yeah.
ninth grade.
Yeah.
And then there have been other people that have been just at shows in the crowd and they've come up to me afterwards and they're like, you were my teacher. And I'm like, really? That's cool. And a couple of them I've
That's
really
stuff.
like reconnected with and like I hang out with now, like that are in their 30s and 40s. And like they come see me and I go meet them up and I hang out. So
I wonder, right? Because your daughter's 20,
she's 21,
your daughter's 21, and your son's how
18.
18. Majority of their life, they seen you teaching.
Yes.
And so I wonder if, because they seen you teaching and you have beaten cancer and everything, I wonder if because they see you retired and they see like how you glow when you're on stage, I wonder if that plays a role in them being so
Yeah.
supportive because
It does.
I can't imagine, right? And I'm pretty sure it's probably very inspirational for them too.
I hope so. Yeah.
Go for your dreams. I don't know if
Yeah.
comedy is your purpose. If you found your purpose yet.
Yeah.
Or
I don't know either. I'm having fun.
just having fun. So that was actually be my next question. What do you want to do with comedy? Where do you see yourself going with comedy, or you just open arms, whatever comes?
Well, so kind of two things. I came into it with one goal in mind, but I have turned into the like, whatever comes, bring it on. Like
Right.
I've been doing roast battles. I've been helping with the like setup events. I've been doing all kinds of stuff. So I will take on whatever challenge comes my way. I'm happy to do that. I love taking on new stuff. But my goal with comedy to begin with, what I really wanted to do is I wanted to get to know people in the Charlotte community and the scene, get to know who are the good comedians, who would be good to work with, and then start this little thing that I had thought of that is a comedy for charity event. And it's at a different bar every month. And it's once a month and it's like a showcase event. And the bar owner gets to decide what the charity is going to be that the ticket sales would go
Nice.
to, and get like some of the people in Charlotte who are really good ones to be headliners, throw a few others in there, try to get some people some exposure. But really, I was hoping to do something for charity. That was like ultimately what I had thought of to begin with when I came in.
That's a
So,
pretty good goal.
yeah.
That's a pretty good goal. Again, jumping back to like the purpose, right?
Mm.
Oftentimes, right, you've had one career and you kind of transitioning into, doing well, you not kind of, you are transitioning
Definitely, yeah.
to be a comedian. What advice would you give not only teachers but other comics or just other individuals just navigating through life, right?
Mhm.
Because you have, you got a lot of perseverance. You've seen a lot of things. What advice would you give them about, just taking risks and just going for whatever you want to go for?
Yeah. I met this kid the other night. He had just graduated from college, and he and I just were having this conversation about, but like this exact thing. And what I told him to me was like, I think you have to figure out who you are. You have to know yourself, and you have to be comfortable with yourself.
Yeah.
And when you are comfortable with yourself, you develop a confidence and a happiness in yourself. But you also have to find something that makes you happy, something outside of yourself that makes you happy and gives you a purpose and is something that you want to do. And for him, the kid I was talking to, he is an actor and he had quit like business major kind of stuff right in the middle of a big internship and was like, I'm going full time into acting. I'm just doing it. And we were talking about that mindset of like really trying to find the thing that makes you happy and going after it. And I don't know, I've had enough times in my life where I thought, damn, I might not be here next year.
Mhm.
you know, like I might not be here in 6 months or whatever, that I I cut out the bullshit that makes me unhappy.
Is that because you got older, you think?
I think it's also because I got older and I got a lot
Retired.
wiser. But no, over the past few years, I've just kind of like cut out the bullshit. I've learned how to say no to the things that aren't going to make me happy or do anything for me where I'm giving all of myself to somebody else or some other cause and I'm getting nothing out of it. I need to be able to see that I'm getting something out of it or that I'm truly helping somebody else. And that's the intrinsic value. But if you find the thing that makes you happy, do it. And money be damned. Like you can figure out a way. I mean, I know that's like sounds crazy, but you can figure out a way to make it. There's enough weird Craigslist jobs out there that you can make some money.
So let's talk about
But
that.
you gotta be happy. Like you just gotta be a happy person.
She's talking to me right
Yeah, you just gotta be happy.
So
Yeah.
let's talk about that. What made you get into the Craigslist? The reason why I say that is, right, Craigslist was something popular, you
Mhm.
know, around, I say, in 15, and then it kind of just
Yeah.
became a creepy website.
Yeah.
And you're the only person I know that is talking about it.
Yeah.
What made you go
I
to
did not
Craigslist?
I did not know that it had become a creepy website because like for a couple of years that I was doing like the chemo and I was living at home, I was like out of my mind and I was
Yeah.
just out of society. I didn't know what was going on. So I didn't know Craigslist had become creepy. And then I was like looking for a job on there for my daughter because she needed a job. And she came downstairs and she's like, "Where are you looking?" I'm like, "Craigslist." She's like, "Mom, what the fuck?" And I was like, she's like, "Do you want me to get like molested or kidnapped for real?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" She's
Yeah.
like, "Oh." And so I was like, "There's some legit stuff on here." And there was this thing for like a mystery shopper. And so I like, it took me to a website. And it was like a legit website. I looked it up on
Mhm.
Better Business Bureau
Yeah.
and stuff. And it said, just do this little application. I did it. And now they send me things when they need somebody to go count items to make sure that how many items are out of the wrong size rack at Burlington and Ross stores around town. And like
Jesus.
I get 20 bucks and I get $20 just for like going and counting some clothes. Like, you know, I
Yeah.
mean, it takes
2 seconds.
30 minutes tops to do all
Yeah.
of it. So like I saw that and I did it. And then there were like a couple other things that were just odd little jobs
You
like
just
that.
out here
It was a
with
pet sitting job. I found this pet sitting job on there that like was this super nice guy that lived nearby that needed his dogs taken care of for a
Yeah.
weekend. So there have been some legit things on there, but I did not know that it had become Craigslist. I'm old. I like I said, I'm 51. Like sometimes that shit just goes whoop. Like, yeah, I
Yeah.
would say things in class sometimes that the kids would be like dying laughing. And I'm like, did I just say something inappropriate or some slang that I did not know? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Often.
So how do you feel though, also by doing your comment, right? And you seeing that the world is sensitive. Even though you is
Yeah.
retired and you know,
Yeah.
you said as a teacher you can say certain things.
Yeah.
But now society's saying we don't care if you're a teacher, mama, whatever, look, you better play nice.
Yeah.
So how do you try to make your jokes, you know, to please the audience, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying, for everybody?
So, so since most of mine are just genuine like
Mm.
life stories, there's not a lot that is offensive in it.
Yeah.
You know, it's just it depends on the way you tell it.
Okay.
And you can make anything sound offensive if you want to, but you can also take something that's could be offensive and tone it down and still make it funny.
Right.
So that's like I don't think that any of my stories are anything that would cause a big uproar. Um, I mean, the worst thing I do is talk about like probably the worst story that I tell that's like the most insensitive one is about a fight that I broke up and it was between a midget and a special needs kid.
Whoa.
Like that. It's
How was that?
really bad.
How was that?
Like you'd imagine. But
So who won? I want to know.
Well, a midget tried to fight me before it too, so
like she was
What? So
story.
she bought special to her level.
She had him on the front of her shirt. And she was just like
oh, that's
punching and
funny.
kicking for all she But no, none of my stories are going to be anything that like really.
Right.
So I saw that you
Yeah.
did Hackling Light. How was that when you did Hackling Light?
Oh, it was fun. Nobody really gave me any like bad heckles. They
Was it
made
was it
comments like,
was it better than what you thought?
yeah, like, yeah, I expected I would get more heckling, but I really didn't. Like,
Okay.
yeah, I didn't get much. I was kind of surprised. But it was fun being able to heckle the other comedians, like to
Right.
say stuff to them. Because, and I only did it to ones I'm friends with,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but like you could ask them a question, you go up to that mic and do it. And I thought that was really a cool idea. I liked that. So it was fun. I'll definitely do it again. Yeah.
So how is you like in the Charlotte scene of comedy?
Love it. It's been a little hard to break into at first because I didn't realize until somebody recently told me this. They said there's a lot of teachers who quit or retire or just come out and try their hand at comedy.
Mhm.
And they come around for a month and then they're gone.
Oh,
Or there's a lot of just new comedians that
Hmm.
come in and they're gone after a month. Um, and several people told me, we thought you were going to be one of those. So we were just kind of ignoring you.
wow.
Like literally.
Well, yeah, that's
And
good.
but then I just kept coming around and I forced people to meet me because I go up and I'm like, "Hey, I'm Scotty. How are you? What's your name?" Like I talk to everybody.
Yeah.
And so then people can't ignore you. And I, started making some friends and broke in a little bit here and there. And I've made some really good friends in the scene. But it was a little hard to break into at first. And there's definitely cliques within it, big time.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, big time. But there are with anything. I mean, that's just the way of life. So yeah.
So what advice would you give your students though for taking the bravery and pretty much saying, "Hey, fuck y'all parents, I'm stepping out and doing my thing." Like what, like you know what I'm saying? Like what advice would you say to that senior to say, "Hey, I thought I was gonna be in Miss Scotty class," you know what I'm saying?
I did. I had some of
You
those.
know,
I had kids that reached out, like kids that got my phone number and text because like my kids went to the
yeah,
school, so like everybody had my phone number. And I had kids that would like text me or send me an email and be like, "Yo, I was supposed to be in your class next semester. I've been waiting on it. What, you
yeah.
know?" And so that was hard. I did really feel guilty about that.
Mhm.
That was hard. But to those kids, I talked to them and I said, "Look, I'm not in a good place mentally and health wise right now because in January I really wasn't.
Hmm.
And I was like, I'm just not in a good place and I'm not good for you when I'm there. And I was missing a lot of school last semester because I was just so sick all the time. And so I told them, like, I have to step away so that you can get a teacher who's going to be in here with you guys every day and is in here for it. I can't give you just half of myself. It's not fair.
Hmm.
Um, and then and I told him I was going to have to be out that first month and it just made sense to stop now. But those kids have been great, and I'm still talking to a lot of them. Like, they reached out and they're like, "Hey, I got into UNC," or "I got into NC State," and stuff like that. So, I still see and talk to a lot of them. A lot of them follow me on Instagram and will message me about stuff. So, yeah, I do kinda I miss that part of it, especially some of the kids that I was gonna have this past semester. I knew them, so that was a little hard.
One more question about teaching
Yeah.
because I'm really interested in that because, like I said, it's different. But what is your view on public school in the next 10 years? Since, it's
Mhm.
the decline of people
Mhm.
wanting to get in the field of teaching.
Yeah.
And, a lot of parents is trying to go to home schools and charter
Yeah.
school. So, like, what is with all your experience, like, what do you see, you know?
I do see that there's a lot of change that needs to be made, or it is going to be a rapid decline. Um, I'm really afraid with all the shit going on in the government with, Trump and everything else he's taken away funding wise because schools are already underfunded as it
Mm,
is. Um, I have always been a huge proponent for public education over private, over homeschool, over charter school, anything. Like, I just truly believe in public education, and I believe it is the best way to educate your kids.
Hmm.
Um,
Why is that?
you're in with every type of person. You
Yeah.
don't get to pick and choose your teachers, your classmates,
Mm,
like you do
It
in
best
a
stimulates
private
life.
school. And it gives you real life experience
Mhm.
because I always had that, so I knew how to deal with people, to talk to people, deal with my own problems. Because if a teacher, um, would talk to the student first before they talk to the parent when I was growing up. So it's a matter of
But the reason why I say that, so how do you feel about, public school is like one teacher, right? And sometimes it's
Yeah.
one teacher to 33, you know what I'm saying,
Or
students.
40.
Or
Mm.
40, especially in bigger
Yeah.
cities compared to charter schools and private school when you might have one.
I know. Yeah.
So it's just like, for me, I get that aspect from
Yeah.
it, but I feel like once they took away the teacher assistants,
Now that
yeah,
at that point, that really upset me when they did that with the elementary school because my God, you need help with those little
Mhm.
kids. Like you
Yeah.
need an extra pair of hands in there all the time. In high school, what they've done is they have just kept dumping more and more kids in our class. When I first started teaching, my classes ranged from 24 to 30 was the most I had in the first few years I was teaching. And my last few years, my classes have all been like 34, 35, 39,
Wow.
41.
So how is it?
And it's so hard,
So how is it for you to reach every?
so hard.
Yeah,
Like trying to connect with
that's
every one of those
120 if you
kids.
think about it
Yeah,
a day that you're
I
dealing with.
know.
And how do you still have time to give energy to your kids afterwards?
Yeah, and that does get very challenging.
You deal with 120.
Thank God my kids were really good at they understood, like, if I came home and I had a really bad day and we came in the door,
Social battery
I
done.
would say, "Mom needs 30 minutes. Y'all go chill, watch TV or whatever," and I would just go up to my room and just like, "Okay, I'm not gonna kill anybody. It's all good. Okay, not gonna kill anybody. It's all good." Like, it's just deep breathe until I came down to them. Because you do have to, like, kinda compartmentalize what's going on in your school world
Yeah.
and in your personal world. Because it can be overwhelming with all that many people needing you all day long. Because it's like 120 kids, like you
Yeah.
said, and their parents and all your administrators and your coworkers and your kids in your club, so it's taxing. I do see the value in having smaller class sizes, and I do understand that if charter schools and private schools are providing that, I totally understand why people are going to them. Because class size to me has been one of the biggest problems that I have seen arise in education or change in education. We used to have caps and then they just like waived them and we don't anymore in high school anyway.
Mhm.
So one last question: how did you feel about No Child Left Behind when that came into play? Because you've been teaching
Yeah,
about a minute.
during that. Yeah, yeah.
They saying, hey, they don't care if Johnny don't know how to do 8 times 8. Everybody got to stay on this level.
Yeah. No, we didn't. I mean, we didn't really do it. Like, we would pull the kids that needed the extra help out and give them the extra help so that everybody could move on. Like, it was not really what it was intended to be. And then what
Okay.
actually was happening in the schools was not the same thing. The intent behind it was great, but
Yeah.
as a
Realistically.
practical, realistic solution, it did not work. As most education initiatives do not work. And
Exactly.
half of them are the same thing, just repackaged with some new buzzword and branding, and it's the same thing we did 10 years ago. So,
Honestly, right? I've been reading a book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right?
mhm,
And it talks a lot about the educational system
mhm.
and how it doesn't necessarily teach the things that in real life, like yes, you know, uh, learning how to read, write, and stuff, all that stuff, you need that in real world, right?
Yeah.
But taxes, financial, they don't teach it,
No.
and that's really is what's holding people behind because they don't. Once you get out in the real world, you don't know.
Yes.
You don't know,
Yeah.
and there's no teacher.
Yeah.
There's only trial and error. You know.
There is a new class at North Carolina Public Schools right
Mhm.
now that just went into effect year before last.
Okay.
And my son took it his senior year this year because he just graduated, and it's called Personal Finance and Economics or something
Mhm.
like that. And he took it. It's a one semester class. Everybody has to take it before they graduate while they're in high school now. And that child knows more about finance than I do.
Hmm.
And I was like, finally.
Finally, something.
But I
But
think,
it's a pilot program. And
but I think like this.
they need more than that, and they
Yeah.
need it everywhere.
Because at my school, right, I went to an all white school, right?
Yeah.
And we had financial classes, but it was suggested. You know what I'm saying? If you
Right.
want, it was an extra.
We had that too.
Exactly. Like I had business 911, marketing,
Yeah.
financial, economy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I saw that most of those are in predominant white schools.
Yeah.
When I went to my urban school, we didn't have that as an option.
Oh, yeah.
At all.
Yeah. It's
It's
different.
pretty much, I feel like it's a bigger issue than what it is. They do teach it. And my parent did use the No Child Left Behind, because they did give you an option to place your kid in
In a better
different-
school.
in a
That-
better
yeah.
school. So I just feel like it's based on error. You know what I'm saying? Because they do have schools that teach you that, but it's
Right.
up to your child and your
Right.
parent to say, well, they do got business 101. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Now they have had that in the past, but now with this new class
Yeah.
they've put into place, and you cannot graduate without taking it. And I am so thankful that they have finally done that. Now,
I was mad at y'all.
like a house one would be easier.
They gave us a senior project, do a whole research and stuff.
Those are the worst.
Just for the year
Hated-
after that, they had to do it.
Science.
hated the senior project. When I was in CMS, they did the
Yeah.
senior project and I worked
It's-
with that. Oh my
that
gosh, that
sucks.
was awful.
All right. So we at the end of the episode, and at the end of the episode, we like to ask the question of the previous person. They asked the question. So you are going to have to ask the question for the next person that comes on,
Oh, okay.
right?
Okay.
So the question is, right, I know you out of, the school system now, but throughout the conversation, you did say you want to do some charity and try to host at different bars and stuff like that, right? So I'm just going to go off of that.
Okay.
What is one thing that you are doing right now today to help that dream come true?
But that's easy. Tonight at Sip City,
Hey,
we are crossing the line again because we sold out last week and they asked us to do it again. And this is
Okay,
the
then.
first show that I've been a part of, like helping with.
Okay.
Ham Rivers, O'Hara Rivers, if you know him, he and I met at the beginning of February.
Mm-hmm.
And we just, I don't know, it was weird. Like we just liked each other instantly. We were like,
Yeah.
I like you. You're cool. And we just started talking and we said, all right, the first show that either one of us gets and starts working on, we're on it. We're going to work on it together.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm definitely working towards making that happen. Getting some like little feature spots. I've been doing the roast battles, so I get some on the spot experience. So that I will ultimately be a better host for doing that.
Got you.
So yeah,
So are you going out meeting other bars other
Yes.
bars and trying to meet their owners and seeing?
I
Okay.
actually just met one this week and found out that somebody has given my name to another one down in Monroe to talk to.
Okay.
So I have an in there to talk to.
So giving back was always, in you.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I've always done and like when I was in high school, they didn't care if you had community service and stuff
Mhm.
like that. Like in the 80s, they just looked at your SAT scores and your grades. But even in high school, I always helped because my grandparents were always like that and my parents were always like that. I don't know. It's just something we've always done. So
Okay.
yeah, I want to do something.
All right. So what is a question that you would like the next person that we interview to answer? And again, we don't only interview comedians.
Right.
We
right.
interview rappers,
Okay.
estheticians,
Yeah.
Entrepreneurs.
entrepreneurs.
Anybody that's changing their mindset to positive.
Okay. So let me think. What's your most embarrassing moment?
What is your most
Okay.
embarrassing moment? That's a good one because a lot of times people
Yeah.
they try to hide it.
That's a good one.
Try to hide
It's a
it.
good way to get to know each other. It's a good
Yeah.
way to break the ice.
Yeah.
I always made my kids in speech and debate do that as their first speech.
So what's your Instagram?
My Instagram is Storytime with Scotty. My name is Scotty Youngman. And you can look up Scotty Youngman and find it. I'm the only one of that on there too. But it's Storytime with Scotty.
All right, then, y'all. Well, we'll see y'all. This is another episode of Change Mindset.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Scotty.
All right. Thanks.
And we see y'all next week.
All right.
All right, Scotty. That was
Oh, I had a gift.
Tap in. Let's get it, y'all. Change mindset.